Bob, as you set up the demarcation issue, and as you proposed to answer the emergence question, it sounds very much like a single step, what's effectively a single step process, even though no doubt it took our ancestors a long time to achieve it. But what I'm interested in is to the extent that's true, and to the extent that what you're offering us is the right story as to what that step amounts to what, I mean, looking back, could we have foreseen in advance that it would have turned out to be a single step process? Or did we just kind of get lucky? So there's this tradition with this distinction between linguistic and non-linguistic, or rational and non-rational kinds of behaviour, in which that sort of sharp demarcation is embedded, and then if the basically single-step story is right, that tradition has turned out to be right too. There is something fairly sharp there. Did we just get lucky, or could it have been predicted in advance?
Well, I mean, I don't know. We're missing all of our sort of hominin ancestors who, I'm thinking of as social as us, as having implicitly normative practices, but not having crossed the line to discursive practices. The way I understand the story, discursiveness is a much more primitive stage than being a logical creature, than having the expressive resources in the language to make explicit the processes by which you groom the conceptual contents, and so are semantically self-conscious, the slogan being logic is the organ of semantic self-consciousness, but I don't think that's required for discursiveness. But still, I think a boundary is crossed. The best way I know to give a flavor of sort of how I'm thinking about this, I mean, obviously, I don't know sort of how stretched out or what intervening stages there could be, is to think about the ontogenetic case. So if we have the 11-month-old who toddles into the living room and as her first intelligible sentence says, "Daddy, the house is on fire," but really says nothing else. And you say, "Oh, how do you know? Did you smell smoke?" "No, this was just the first string of words that came out," and we say, "Oh, cute, on the way." When the 3-year-old comes in and says that, now we say, "Well, now wait a minute. Did you smell smoke? Did you see fire? Where is it? What should we do?" And we think about, well, what is the difference there? And there's a picture that Dewey makes fun of, and Sellers makes fun of, and in effect Wittgenstein does. So, well, some light went on in between, and the words were just noises before that, and now the understanding light went on, and we have this. And on my picture, the response that she could make, the noise that she could make, has to be the taking up of a position in a social game of giving and asking for reasons, something that is an appropriate response to some circumstances and not others, but whose appropriateness is subject to demands for reasons, can be given as a reason, and so on. Well, of course, the kids get better at that, at sort of making these moves, both the language entry moves and the language moves as they come. At what point do you say, oh, the boundary's crossed, and now what we had the image of the Cartesian light going on, now we have that? Well, I think the answer is there isn't a bright line that's crossed. At a certain point, and for various contingent purposes, we start to hold her responsible for what she said and demand a reason, demand that she draw the consequence. And she needs to be sort of good enough for it to make sense, for us to alter her status and hold her responsible and take her actually to have done this. It has to be something like that happens sort of with all of us, that at a certain point what they were doing really was hold, if we were there looking at them, we would say, oh, now it makes sense to take it that they're demanding reasons here, but it isn't going to be dictated by the non-normatively described facts. Oh, you'd be wrong if you, did this a month early for her or a month later than that. And I don't think it's a fact like that about us either, even though I think this is the line that makes us sapient and not sentient.
No, I mean, I was really asking about whether it, from your point of view, would make sense to say, look, it could have turned out that there were two crucial lines, say, both failed. So there was sort of linguistic stage one, which perhaps in the ontogenetic case was achieved at, say, 2.5 or something. And then there was this second thing that achieved ontogenetically by our ancestors, which also turns out to be a crucial component of the mature story we have.
Well, that's what I meant to be addressing by talking about the difference between being a rational creature and a logical creature. Because I do think there have been several such, the account that I would offer of what talking is has a number of lines like this. And in my essay, How Analytic Philosophy Has Failed Cognitive Science, I mark those lines and say, look, these on fundamental grounds, we know have got to be big lines, and you guys have not been empirically investigating these with non-linguistic primates, with kids, and you haven't because we haven't told you that these are lines that you should care about. For instance, to be able to use conditionals. Now, I don't think that there's a primitive attitude of supposing something. I think we learn to merely entertain a hypothesis by asserting conditionals that have it as the antecedent, in effect, reasoning in that way. And that's a very definite cognitive achievement, which Mike Tomasello tells me his chimps are never going to make that move, so that when one says, is the light on, they don't act as though the light were on or respond the way they would if you lied to them and told them the light was on when they can see it isn't, but sort of worried about what would be the case if the light were on. So I think there actually are a number of those. But when I talk about the demarcation question, I'm looking at the first one of them that sort of gets you into the game of talking.